Hi there. This is Newsnight. Thanks for joining us. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Nigeria's democratic journey proceeds apace, but with what many will describe as potholes on the road. This would take the form of security challenges, dropping or lower standards in education, as well as youth unemployment. However, there are some who see light at the end of the tunnel and urge continued and concerted efforts towards tackling these issues through all hands being on deck. My guest on today's edition of the program is one of them. Elder statesman, senior advocate of Nigeria, and university proprietor, Afe Babalola. Afe Babalola, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
The nation is at a crossroads, very concerned. They say the highest duty of government is to provide security for its citizens. But it seems that at this point in time, that's a major challenge. Anywhere you look, from kidnapping to banditry to clashes between herdsmen and farmers and all of that. Are you worried?
My answer is positive. I am worried. I'm concerned. And everybody in my family is concerned. All of us in the university are also worried. We are concerned. All Nigerians are concerned, except those who are beneficiaries of the present problem, the present system.
Now, so many people have preferred solutions. Some have said we should go back to the Westminster style of government, go back to the regions, pre-1966 and so on. And then others have talked about the national conference held in 2014 under the former president, Goodluck Jonathan. So many suggestions. What's your own suggestion?
Are we to go back to Westminster type of government? Look, there's nothing big or small, otherwise by comparison. I'm in a position to compare what it was, either pre-independence, that is 50 to 60, or First Republic, that is 60 to 66 before the army took over. It was the golden era of peace, of tranquility, of growing economy. In fact, people were saying that Western region will catch up with the Europeans at the rate at which they were going. Unfortunately, the army took over. And we now have what we call a federal constitution, which is a lie. It lies against itself. If you see the preamble, it says a constitution given to the people by the people. That's not correct. Of course, it was by the army. And they centralize everything. Unless we go back to something similar to 60, 65 with modifications, we'll never get there again. I believe we need it urgently. What I want is sovereign national conference. In other words, the decision there will not be available for amendment by any legislature or anybody. Sovereign national conference.
But a number of people have talked about this sovereign national conference, and you're a very senior lawyer, one of the most senior in the country, in fact. And they have said, well, if we're going to go back to that, talk about sovereign national conference, the sovereignty of the country at the moment, on the basis of our democratic situation, is resident in the executive, legislative, and judicial arms of government, and that therefore you can't change the current system, even to convoke the national conference, the sovereign national conference to talk about, without adjusting the constitution to make provision for that.
I understand it to mean who conveys rather
Indeed.
the conference. Of course, it's legislature and the presidency, the executive together. Simple. It can be done. What is the purpose of lawmakers? To make laws. They can make the law. We want a sovereign national conference. So simple. And the president who believes in developing a nation out of nations will readily agree.
But again, there are those who will talk about that those who are beneficiaries of the current system are the ones expected to do this adjustment to convoke this kind of conference you're
What a
talking about.
brilliant
Will they do it?
suggestion by you. Those who are benefiting from what the mess we have now are those who are asking for to make the law. So we come to the same decision that are we likely to have a legislature that will move for a sovereign national conference? Are we likely? The answer is virtually no. But the pressure that is going on now, my dear friend, they will. They will. That's why I'm happy about the pressure from the east, from the west, from middle belt, everywhere, from elders, from the youths, and so on. The youths must not keep quiet because the future is theirs. I've lived over 90 years, so what else do I want? It's for them. They have to fight for themselves. We should not wait until we have situations like what we have in Sudan, where ordinary 23-year-old girl led the revolution. When people are hungry, they become angry. When people are angry, they become violent. My dear brother, there is hunger in the land. There is poverty in the land. There is insecurity in the land. So, I've written, you know, I write regularly in the papers, so I've written about this. I think I better leave that.
Now, having said that, where we are now, you talked about a president who wants to make a nation out of nations. We seem to have a problem with that issue of nation and nations, because in Nigeria, it is said there are more than 350 ethnic groups, almost as many languages, and that in itself constitutes a problem because the country was created as an administrative mechanism by the British for their own colonial administration, not necessarily because they wanted to make a nation out of the country. The late Chief Awolowo described the country as a mere geographical expression.
Yeah.
Today, many people still say it is a mere geographical expression because everything, including what you've spoken about so far, will be politicized. You mentioned the fact that there has been pressure from the east, from the west, the middle belt, and so on. But the position of the north is to say, can you define what this is? What is this sovereign national conference? What is this true federalism? What is it that you are asking for? And there are those who have said, well, they will ask the question because they are the people who are in government at the moment, who have ruled for a large portion of the period that Nigeria has been independent. So how does one reconcile this? And it can't be done without them.
We cannot achieve our goal without them. There's no doubt about that. And as you rightly said, there are the people who are benefiting from existing system. And now you want to change the system which benefits them. We have problem there. But as I said, I have no problem in coming to the right decision that we need a sovereign national conference to resolve our problems. And I believe the time will come. But I believe that we should not allow it to come after there had been anarchy in the country. That's why we recently, Abu Salami called the Conference of Leaders, and they rightly said, look, the Southerners said they won't come if the Mieti is there because they don't recognize them as an entity. And rightly too, he agreed with them. See, there are reasonable leaders in this country. There are many. Call them. Gawan, Obasanjo, Abdul Salami, and many others who, when they talk, people listen. When I talk, I don't know how many people listen, but there are those who listen to these people. So we will support them. I believe we will get there. We will convince them. Don't say north. When you say north, north is a large geographical area. Several times the size of Britain and France together. North alone. Now, you talked about over 300 ethnic groups. How many are in the north? The Fulani is only an element in the north. You have Hausas, you have all other people there. When these people opt out of the anarchy being brought by a section, you will find that those remaining who want a nation out of nations are more than the small people. So if you have a conference, you'll be surprised what you have. I've been members of several times of the national conferences. So I knew the problem we are talking about. But at that time, we do not have the present problems of anarchy, looming, of unemployment. I know how many telephones, I know many text messages I receive every day from people asking for money from me for different purposes. Can you imagine a telephone coming from a mother saying, look, I have 3 children. We haven't had a breakfast today. We don't know where, please, whatever you can give us. Things are really bad.
You mentioned former President Olusegun Obasanjo. He's famous for writing letters more recently. And the most recent letter he wrote speaks particularly to this security problem. And it has generated a lot of controversy, some people supporting what he said, some people saying he was playing to the gallery, that he had access to the president, could have told the president that privately, why did he have to make the letter public? And others saying, look, leave the messenger alone, address the message. Where do you stand on the issue of the mode of communicating this kind of, when you're a former president, there are certain things that people say is protocol. Where do you stand on the issue of the letter? Even before we come to what is in the letter itself.
Substance.
Yes. Where do you stand on that?
There are many ways of communicating with leaders. I happen to be very close to Obasanjo in government. I was lawyer for the government.
Indeed.
Now, if anybody claims to know Obasanjo, I belong to that group of people. He's a sincere person. Remember when he assumed office, we had over 50-something million, around billion debt. For the first 2 years, this man was going around the countries, the party club, this and that. At the end of the day, he succeeded in having forgiveness of 18 billion. And then our debt became manageable. When you have a heavy foreign debt, you are calling for danger in your economy in the country, because you are going to spend larger part of your money in servicing the debt. What has happened? Today, we are back to where we were then. Our foreign debt today now is worse than what it was when we came in and fought for it, what we left. You see, this is a man who's respected abroad, but who is not respected at home by a few people, not by all people. I respect him. I'm sure you respect him yourself. So when he was there, I was talking. There was telephone, general one, where you could phone to the president. You mention your name. There is no way I can talk to the president now myself. There's no way. That's how accessible it was. So you're talking about mode of communication. If letters go to the president privately, confidentially, I ask you, how do ordinary people know what he communicated to them? Because it's fighting for the people. I think it's quite in order. There's something secret about it. There's anarchy. Let us address it. Is that a secret matter? It's only a love affair.
now the message, what was contained in the letter. He identified what the security problems as he saw them were, and the ones that were actually very serious. But he also preferred solutions, what he felt should now needed to be done, among which was what you talked about earlier, which is gather the most senior people in the country with a view to finding a solution and then taking it from there. But I go back to one of the questions I asked earlier, which is that everything in the country right now is politicized.
Good.
Even to gather these people together to say, look, okay, we have a general problem, what do you think? Immediately, people begin to talk about where you are from, which party you belong to, and so on. What had you said in the past for and against the current government and the president, and so that becomes the issue as opposed to what was supposed to be addressed. So in this kind of situation, how does one go about, I'm sure you've read and heard some of the things that have been said since the letter was published. How does one address this?
Before I answer your question, let me preface it with the following facts. This present government, for instance, makes it a cardinal principle to fight corruption. It's not a new thing. Obasanjo in his own time had a leadership forum addressing corruption throughout Africa. I followed him as the chairman of Transparency International of Germany in Nigeria. I remember giving lectures myself, for example, in Benin Republic and other places on corruption. So it's not a new thing. And because he was so concerned, it was he who established ICPC and EFCC. When he established ICPC, people went to court. I defended it. So you can see how concerned this man is about Nigeria. And it's an insult for people who are not born at that time. That is talking the 90s. Or even those who were born, to insult him by saying he was wrong in addressing the issue that concerns him, issue that concerns you, that concerns me, that concerns the welfare of the people, to ensure that Nigeria does not go to war. How can you blame me, for God's sake? And all the issues he raised now are life issues. Is it not correct that there's kidnapping? As I told you earlier, I only knew about it in the dictionary. It's not correct that there's corruption. It's not correct that there's armed robbery apart from kidnapping. It's not correct that life is becoming unsafe at home, on the road, on the farm. It's not correct that many farms have been totally destroyed by a group of business people called cattle rearers. You know that cattle rearing is a profession, like poultry, fishery, like lawyers. So I don't know why anybody will come around and say, look, you must give special money to them for the purpose of doing their own business. That's clearly discriminatory. Okay.
But that leaves the question of how do we gather these people? I know you've talked about it. Maybe there are the others like you who are thinking about it. And so, but how do we do it? How do we actually do it? Because many of those people will be listening as you're talking today. You don't normally talk. So today you are talking, they're listening.
Yes.
How would they go about it? How should they go about
it? How do we get the Sovereign National Conference or other conference?
In order to address this particular. Yes.
I think there are many ways of going about it. One is the pressure people are putting on those who are benefiting from it. Pressure being put on the House. Fortunately, we have a new set of legislators. And looking at them, I know that some of them are also feeling the pains of what is going on today. I believe we should be able to get them to file necessary motion about it. But it's not only the legislature that should file a motion. The president himself can initiate it. That as it happened in the case of Obasanjo, he initiated it and asked them to pass laws, and we had conferences. It's not a difficult thing. If we have the political will, if indeed the presidency is interested in ensuring that we have a Nigeria which is free from all these problems, a Nigeria which will eventually become a nation out of nations, and we all speak to him, I believe the cabinet should be able to pressurize him to make the move, if the House doesn't want to make the move. And we have the support of everybody, and we'll be leaving behind a legacy which we'll be proud of. Today, we must rally around in the schools, in the universities, in the colleges, whatever, to have a change. The only change, the only sustainable change that can change this country is a change that changes the Constitution. It is the Constitution, when it's a change, that put an end to all these problems we have today. The economy, employment, and so on and so forth. And we go back to what it was in the 1960 and 66. It's the only change. So I appeal to those listening to me to join others in bringing about a change without bloodshed.
You're a big farmer.
I am.
Very big farmer. Have you been personally affected, or has your business been affected by this movement of the herdsmen here in Ekiti?
You know, the cattle herders, which I used to know, and which are still around here, are between the ages of about 8 and 16, using only stick, and this is not longer than 3 feet. They are kind, they are simple, they are harmless. They are not the owners of the cattle. The owners are successful people who reside in their air-conditioned room in the north. You see, in fact, it's a crime to allow those young people to be doing this sort of thing. All along, in those days, pastoral, you know, they used to ensure that the cattle did not eat the crops planted. It's only now that this is, and I don't know why, it's only within the last 4 years that the thing started, or 5 years about. 1, 2, 3 times, we had a caution into our farms. But each time, we called the head of the Hausas and Fulanis, and they called their people together. Don't go to his farm. And we are at peace here now, at peace. Because they told them why they came to this place and why they allowed them to stay. But later I think I'll talk about the solution to...
Please talk about it now.
Okay.
What's the solution? Because you are at peace here, but in neighboring Ondo State, Chief Olufalai has been kidnapped by herders. Just a couple of weeks ago, Pa Ruben Fashonachi's daughter was killed on her way back from here to her base, even though there's still contention about who did that. But the initial reports suggested it was herdsmen who did it, although later on official reports said no, it wasn't, that they were just armed robbers. But the point I'm making is that while you may have been at peace in Ekiti here, in other places, it's not quite like that.
We are at peace because we see these people as our neighbors. And those who made mistake, they were corrected, and there's no problem as at now. Now, the answer to, if you don't mind, the answer to this harassment problem is near. First, let me congratulate Emefiele, the governor of Central Bank, who recently spoke about production of milk. He said the CBN is ready to provide loans for those who want to go into cattle rearing business. Indeed, they could also support the pastoralists, get them concentrated in one place instead of moving around. That is the point. He had solved it. If the intention of these businessmen, cattle rearers, is to find comfortable area for their cattle, the government has provided it. The CBN has provided for it. Let them agree with the submission of the CBN Emefiele. Let them agree with the Anchor program, take loans, and that's it. That's the end of the matter. In that way, Nigeria will be at peace from Fulani areas.
In agriculture, general agriculture policy, someone like you who is in so many aspects of agriculture, one of the things this government is touting as one of its big achievements is that it has encouraged people to go into agriculture big time, and even small scale farmers. Are they getting it right? Are you happy with the way policy is being implemented in the agricultural sector?
I must say, I congratulate the government for the steps they have taken. One thing is to have idea. Ideas rule the world. It is those who translate ideas to concrete, real thing that succeed. Until you concretize your idea, you are still a failure. The government has not succeeded in concretizing these ideas. Left to me alone, we should start from the state government. The state government ought to endow each local government with the agricultural equipment which will be available to be hired by farmers with the security of their farm. Nobody wants to train a child up to LLM or BSc, ask them to go to a farm, use cutlass and hoe like my father. No. They were using cutlass and hoe. They don't use it anymore. Now, if these things are available, and then you give loan, young men group together, acquire land with soft loan. Now, go and make use of the equipment available in local government. Overnight, the whole place will change. Will change. Nigeria will change. Nigeria will change.
Afe Babalola University is the single biggest visible investment that you have made. And that is because you have been quoted in the past as saying that without education, nothing is possible. The story of how you went to school is very well known to everyone. But today, people talk about the general quality of education in the country, and that it is part of the reason why the unemployment rate is so high, because the people being produced from the educational system are unemployable. They do not meet the needs of current economic realities. What is required in the economy is not what the universities are teaching or other institutions. So at that point, we come to you. First, do you agree that that's true, that what the universities are producing is not what the society is in need of at the moment? And how is your university doing it differently?
I'm concerned, I'm worried about the quality of education, particularly in the federal and state universities. One, due to lack of funding. Leadership is number one in anything. A leader who is transformational, not a leader who is transactional. The problem with this country today is that we have leaders who are doing business, they are transactional leaders. Awolowo was a transformational leader. That's why he changed things and made things work. Now, left to me alone, Nigeria universities, we need what we can call a revolution in education. You have leaders who must be ready to sacrifice everything else for the job they are doing. So the problem of our public university is funding, like I said, to management. There is nothing like what we call board of trustees in public universities. You have a university, the visitor is the head of the state or the governor, if it's a state university. How many times does the governor, does he go to the universities to supervise what is going on, to see what is going on? How many times does the president go to the public universities? It's a serious matter. You have to go and think about it. I think I should suggest that instead of the visitor for public university, it should have board of trustees. Then, of course, those who are members, like the council, will not be political appointees. Will not be those who are getting it because they belong to their party. You must look for people who are interested in education, who want to contribute to education, who have done so before you appoint them. That's problem, one important area which we have to address. University education today, particularly in Nigeria, has suffered so much that we have to look at other areas. One, do you know that in the 60s and 50s, admission to university was only by 2 subjects at GC or GC and this other secondary school, HSC. How do you come to reduce admission to university to school certificate? This is the only country I know where people enter university with school certificate. So right from there, we see things going wrong. In England, you must have your GC advanced level, like they were, because at that time they were controlling Nigeria education. You know that yourself. In America, if you want to do law or medicine, you must have a degree first. Here, with primary from school cert, you go and study medicine, you go and study law. What type of quality? What quality of people do you want there? I can go on and go on.
Why did you set up such a large hospital?
I applied for medicine in my university, from AUC. And they told me I needed a hospital for the clinical work. I approached the state hospital here. They said it wasn't available. I went to Ido, it's about 15 miles from here. There's a medical center there. Government said, no, they can't give me because it is not an hospital, but a medical center. But if I could spend my own money to build up the place to a hospital, then they will allow me. I spent over 2 billion to upgrade the place. It was licensed at teaching hospital. Do you know what? We started to use the place. Within the first 3 months, there was strike. I begged them. They went back to shorten everything. Within 1 year, they went on strike 4 times. I said, this marriage won't work. Marriage of incompatible, the public and private. I decided to build this university and hospital. And I thank God. I've been wonderful, merciful, lavishing in many things.
We have. Now, let me take you in another direction that has to do with your profession, law.
Yes.
More recently, lawyers and judges have been called to question.
Yes.
Even in the battle against corruption. For the first time in the history of the country, security agencies raided the homes of Supreme Court justices. And even as we speak today, there are many judges that are on trial, apart from lawyers. Do you think the battle against corruption, especially as it applies to the judiciary, has been properly fought?
Sir, let me tell you. The reason why I went to law at all was that lawyers were highly respected members of society. They dress well. The best cars in the society belonged to them. At that time, only children of the rich could be lawyers because there was no law college in Nigeria. You had to go to England for 18 dinners in the Inns of Court. But when, in my own stubborn way of doing things, I read at home for GC, for BSc Economics, I said I wanted to be a lawyer. I registered again. I completed my degree, then I went to England. Knowing fully well that I would need a good car. I worked for a year in England, in Chelsea. Saved money to go to Germany, where I bought second-hand Mercedes-Benz, which I brought home. See, what I'm trying to show is that you don't see a lawyer riding bicycle or motorcycle. Hi. They were decent people. The economy has affected everybody, including the law profession. So, as I said, that's the reason why I went to law. At that time, when I came back, judges were respected. They were a replica of God on earth. The man who could sentence one to death. You never saw them in parties, political parties, parties for women, for whatever. No, not at all. But then, the salary at that time was equal to the salary of their colleagues in England because our £1 was more than $1, almost equal to £1. But today, their salary is about 365%. I don't know what their colleagues earn overseas. So, salary-wise, there's problem. So, but is that a good reason why a person who goes to the bench should be corrupt? Whether the salary is good or not? Certainly not. Contentment is the greatest asset of any man. When you are contented, you can trust your employer's money with your hand, and so on and so forth. And lawyers are the people you trust all this into. Now, I do not believe that all judges are corrupt. When I was invited 10 years after I started practice to the bench by Judge Oyemade, Chief Judge of Western Region then, I told him, look, sir, thank you. It is my wish. Indeed, it is the wish of every good lawyer one day to go to the bench, and I've done it with the judgments which will remain the same forever. That was my wish. So I begged him. Do you know that 2 years after, he himself was removed by the military through telephone? like just lawyers and so on. The time when the military tried to deal with our judges the way they did in those days, that day they did irreversible damage to law and judiciary. So I'm not surprised that the Buhari government did the same thing, and people were at night. You saw my article on it. The DSS, who has no power of arrest, DSS duty in law is merely to gather information and give to the president and others. They are not to arrest. Go and look at my article with all the sections I quoted it. Well, again, that what happened in the 80s and now it's happening now. If a judge knows that if he rules against government, he might look for him tomorrow. He'll be very careful. And yet, it's the oath of office. Do you know that you give your judgment without fear or favor? Where lies that now? Then there are rules. There are ways of dealing with judges if they commit offense. That has not been followed.
There was a celebrated, most of those listening today to this interview would not know this case because it happened a long time ago. And it had to do with the installation of the then Are Onakakanfo.
Oh, Abiola.
Indeed, the late MQ Abiola.
MK Ben.
And a week or thereabouts to the installation.
Yes.
Someone secured a court judgment that was to prevent that ceremony from taking place. It was a difficult case, and for what the records, many lawyers didn't want to take it on, but you took it on, and you won.
Correct.
That's one of many cases
Certainly.
that had come. You've referred to some others in the course of this interview.
Yes.
Do you still think that lawyers are brave enough to take on
difficult cases?
Difficult cases.
Well, thank you for that case of MQ Abiola. The truth was that the man was very rich, very influential, had connections all over the country, the world. He had invited people for the celebration of that 15th for Saturday. Then, on Tuesday afternoon, at about 2 o'clock, the Alafi phoned to me. I was his lawyer. He said, I have heard from reliable source that an application has been filed to restrain me from installing Abiola on Saturday. Now, and they filed what we call ex parte motion. That is one which will not be served on you before the order was made. I knew the importance of it. That afternoon, I drove myself straight to the High Court, Oyo, got certified copy. By following morning, I had filed the paper saying that they should not listen to them unless they hear us, that there's no merit in that case and so on. It was a celebrated one. As a matter of fact, like you rightly said, the road from Ibadan to Oyo was guarded by army because of the importance of this matter. And my people said, for the day of judgment, don't go now. I said, I must go. And I went to the court. The whole court was full of army, this and that. And at last, judgment went in my favor, and I was carried head, shoulder.
But you were to play another role in MKO Abiola's life much later on.
Oh, yes.
Because I remember that you were one of those who, in the heat of the
election.
Yes.
Which
you sought to. Maybe I should let you tell the story.
Well, what happened really was that Abiola's election was to be announced, the result was to be announced. Then there was this Babangida's intervention and so on. So when I went to Court of Appeal and filed my papers, to show that, one, he won the election, two, that it should be announced, this and that and so on. And the case was fixed. The court was powerful. How? To the brim. I lined up many legal authorities. And when the lawyer for the government, Omiadi, came in, he said, Afe, what are these cases for? I said, don't you know this case is going on today? He said, it's not going on. Well, when the judges sat, 5 of them, Omiadi raised objection that the case could not go on because the election had been annulled. Then the judges asked me, what's my position? I said, look, in law, election can only be annulled by providing the government gazette, because the rule at that time by so-called decree, that you cannot say so by word of mouth. He knew that was the perfect answer. Miadi then asked for adjournment to go and bring a gazette. For how long? He said, only 2 hours. He went away. The case was stood down. He came back, brought only 1 sheet of gazette in annulment. Then he tendered it. Then justice asked me, what was my take? That now that we have got
the gazette.
the gazette. And I said, inspired, I was inspired by God. And I said, my Lord, this is the saddest day for the judiciary of this country. We are at the beginning of a journey, the end of which nobody knows. That was my statement. We are still at the end of it, at the beginning of it. Only this year now, Babalola was, I think, the Buhari was kind enough to make him, what was it?
Just CFR.
Just CFR and so on. And, but that's the end of that. We are still at the part of the journey. The journey really is democracy, which we must have at the end of the day.
Afe Babalola, it's been a privilege. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
We've come to the end of this edition of Newsnight. Do make our time to join us for another edition next week. I am Ladi Akeredoluale. Goodbye.